I'm here with Gideon Levy, who is a senior columnist for Haaretz newspaper. It's Wednesday, August 27th, and we're in the offices of Haaretz. I'd like to begin, Gideon, by asking you what your take is on the latest ceasefire. Do you think it will hold?
It will hold, but for another short while, as long as Israel is not willing, and it seems it doesn't, really to touch the core issues, namely the siege on Gaza and the occupation of the West Bank, and really change in a dramatic way its attitude toward the Palestinian people, toward Gaza and even toward Hamas. As long as this doesn't happen, I guess we'll have another ceasefire and another circle of bloodshed very soon.
Now, I think it's safe to say that you're an iconoclast among Israeli journalists. You like to write what some would consider the unthinkable in many respects. You have been known to have required a bodyguard over the last little while at times. But you have been willing to take all the criticism and held to your beliefs. For anyone who's been following you, you've been consistent. What is your attitude toward Hamas? Can you describe it in a nutshell?
Yeah, Hamas is, first of all, Hamas is not my cup of tea. This must be very clear. But Hamas, one should remember, came to power in a democratic elections, which was initiated and approved by the West. Hamas then had to take over Gaza by force after the PLO was quite reluctant in handing over the authorities in Gaza. But in any case, this is history. Hamas is a national religious movement with many social goals and obviously also political and military goals. Hamas by all means is not the Islamic State. This comparison made by some of the propagandists of Israel, including the Prime Minister, is totally unacceptable. Hamas has very limited goals, and they are all concerning the Palestinian people. And therefore, to compare them to all kind of international jihad organization is demagogy and nothing but this. As I said, it's not a democratic organization. It's not the organization that I would like to see. But they are there to stay, and they are now much more powerful than before this war. And therefore, Israel has to negotiate with them, as she does in those days. But Israel should negotiate with them also much broader issues, because they are having the key, at least for Gaza.
So for people who say that Hamas is ultimately and totally dedicated to the destruction of Israel, is it possible to negotiate with an entity like that?
First of all, it's only possible to negotiate with the most bitter enemies. The PLO was as bitter as this, and finally the PLO, once he was recognized, once he sat to the negotiation table, the PLO changed. And same might happen with Hamas. We have to challenge them without any taboos.
So if Israel were to enter into direct negotiations, do you think that would lead to some sort of softening? I don't know what the proper adjective is to describe, but in the same way that Mahmoud Abbas, who Shimon Peres described as Israel's best partner for peace, has done a certain about-face from his earlier beliefs. Do you think the same is possible with Hamas?
Possible, but not necessarily so. This should be challenged. And Israel has nothing to lose, nothing, by trying to negotiate with Hamas. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. What did Israel lose? The problem, but is not now about Hamas. The problem is, first of all, about Israel. What does Israel want? It's very hard to understand. What does Israel want? Where does it direct to? Where does it go? What is the strategy for the coming 10, 20, 30 years? The Palestinians are here to stay. What does Israel promise them? What does Israel offer them? All those questions are unanswered.
Mm-hmm. In political terms, if you were to say the political culture of Israel has changed quite a bit over the past few years, and as you've been writing and describing, there's a racist element to it that heretofore we didn't see as much. It's become much more right-wing in this country. Is this an irreversible course, do you think, now?
I'm afraid not. I think the scars that we saw coming out in this war domestically, the cracks in Israeli democracy, which is in any case very fragile and very much not based, those might remain here and those might be irreversible. The people who were scared to go to demonstrations throughout the war, and I know quite many of them, I'm afraid they will continue to go to demonstrate. And if people in this country are afraid physically to go to demonstrate, Israel has a major problem.
Yeah. Turning to Mahmoud Abbas, Khaled Abu Tomi was quite dismissive of him and as really just a paper, not even a paper tiger, but as someone who is really just, in essence, a creation of others. And that Khaled, as opposed to what I would say you have been writing, just generally dismissed all the parties to possible negotiations as not really sincere and not having any credibility. How would you describe Mahmoud Abbas as a negotiating partner?
Israel had told the Palestinians a very simple lesson. The militants might get something, those with peaceful intentions, those who are objecting terror, will get nothing from Israel. This is the lesson. Mahmoud Abbas didn't get anything throughout years of so-called negotiations. Really, not a single achievement that this man can present to his people. Hamas can present so many more achievements only because he used the language of military and terroristic force. So Mahmoud Abbas today is a very, very weak leader because he could never present any achievements. This might still be reversible if this man will be able to come to his people and say, listen, I left the way of violence, the way of terror, and here is the outcome. The outcome is for the benefit of the Palestinian people. If this will not happen, Abbas will disappear.
So what do you think, aside from the short term with the ceasefire, which is problematic, what do you think about the long-range possibilities for peace? Is it something that, as many people say, will never really happen?
It can't never happen because history taught us that occupations never last forever, that no country in history lived only on its sword for centuries. It doesn't work. And for sure not in the 21st century. And if Israel will not change dramatically its attitude, either the world or the region will say its word, and Israel will be forced to do certain things. Anyone who believes that the status quo will remain forever is disconnected with reality. This will not happen. And the only question is, will Israel do it on time, in a peaceful way, and then there might be peace, without guarantees, or Israel will pull it until Israel will be pushed to the corner and forced to do certain things, and then I'm not sure that peace will come out of it. So the main key is in Israel's hands.